All right, we're going to see if this works here this morning. I've got a lot of things changed and a lot of moving pieces. Working to a new look here. I'm a work in progress right now, but we'll see where things go as time goes on. I'll pull it up on my phone, see if we've got you, because I can't monitor. I can't do nothing. Yeah,
it's on.
We're there. Awesome. Well, I can kind of keep up with some comments as they come in. Glad to have 4 and G in the house this morning. I figured G would be here because the Bucks pulled one out, and he was there to see it in person.
Oh, man, they got lucky.
But it was a
great game.
It was.
It was.
We ain't got no volume.
I'll tell you what, Lanny.
Wait a minute. We ain't got no. Wait a minute. Okay. I didn't have all the buttons pushed. We're good. I didn't see little meters jumping. I'm like, wait a minute. We ain't got nothing happening. And then I heard it. So we're all good. We're all good.
Hey, what I saw at the Panthers.
What?
Major difference in week, 2 till now.
Well, the biggest thing is they gave Bryce Young an opportunity to set and learn without pressure.
Yeah.
They gave Bryce Young an opportunity to come back and play without pressure. And like I do, sometimes you got to have players that can build a little confidence, and I think you have to have systems, and I think you have to have certain things in place to help them be successful instead of just what you want to do. So that's what I saw. And the biggest thing that impressed me about Bryce Young, he's not turning the ball over like he was. And I think that's because they're scheming him a little bit better, so he's not feeling like he has to do certain things.
Yeah, let me tell you what I saw in person.
Okay.
I saw several things that were drastically different than in week 2.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, slide protection with the offensive line
Mm-hmm.
was, I would say, I wouldn't say flawless, but it was much more in sync.
Mm-hmm.
Getting on the same page, adapting to the speed of the game. Major difference between, week 2 and now. Defensively, they still have holes on the run game. But I will tell you that is
on the defensive.
Yes, that is a layering issue. People talk often about gap control.
Mm-hmm.
That is a term that I think is way overutilized for understanding what the job of a defense is. Mm-hmm. Yes, you are responsible for a gap or an area. I personally, I like to look at things in perimeters
Mm-hmm.
and areas instead of gaps because things change drastically. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I think once they get the layering issue through the second and third level worked out, then things will be much better. I see defensive linemen going very hard and not necessarily running themselves out of place, but more of an engagement by a good offensive line at Tampa and able to create the cutback lanes. The
biggest thing is they're still learning who they are
and
and trying to find an identity.
Yes.
Both teams.
Yes. And one thing that G and I were talking about at the game is we had really good seats. Wayne Ward called and said, I know the Bucks are coming in town. You want to take G to the game? I'm like, man, that's great. Wayne's seats are incredible. We're about right around the end zone, but on one of the sides up. And I say on the end zone, looking long ways at the goalpost, long ways back up. Field runs this way. We're looking sideline to sideline.
Right.
But we're in like a perfect spot to almost, instead of being directly behind it, where we can see the game and still see the action. And Lanny, Bryce Young, this past summer, got some friends that were down at training camp, and a couple of them, Canales or around him. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
And he talked about Bryce's development this summer, and some good things were coming. I think what we have to remember too is that when we plant a seed, a tree doesn't sprout
right away
automatically, and just right away, like G said. It takes time for that to work itself out. And And, as far as – and I completely understand the criticisms and things like that, but my encouragement to fans, along with everybody else, is let's slow down. Let's slow everything down. Mm-hmm. The world is moving really fast. Let's get back to focusing on process instead of instant gratification. I mean, there are people going on Facebook.
But that comes from ownership. That's where that came from.
I think it comes from ownership of us as a people being in control of our emotions and understanding that while we can be passionate about our team, we don't need to be emotionally immature. I mean, I saw a post on Facebook about, that's it, I'm done, Bryce Young is terrible, da-da-da, and that's fine. People have an opinion. But what we got to remember is he's not even 2 full years into the league. Mm-hmm. He's just 1.5 years in. The learning curve, these are professional players. It's like when people, you and I even talked about this earlier in the fall. There were people several years ago that said, well, USC can beat the New York Jets. That is ridiculous. Yeah. There's no college football team that is ever going to beat the worst pro football team, ever. Please don't say that. That is not accurate.
Right.
Okay? And, what we have to remember is that, slow everything down, give them time to develop. If you're going to pull for your team, then you hold your ownership accountable if you're going to invest your time and energy and not just blindly follow something and say, no matter what, I'm pulling for this. This is the way things are built. And people can gripe and complain about Belichick and all these things. In New England, there was a process in place, and they had sustainable success for a long, long time. It doesn't matter if you like someone or not. You have to respect the process.
But the thing of it is, here's the thing that, and I'm going to say from a fan perspective, okay, I want to see measurable progress, not 2 years, not 2 years Super Bowl contenders. Right. Show me you're building. Right. Show me that you're getting better, that you're filling in the pieces, that you recognize your weaknesses. Right. And implement whatever you need to do to correct that and make it better. 100%. I've told you, my whole thing, my biggest thing with Dabo at Clemson has been just that. He refuses to recognize his weaknesses. I heard a little piece of an interview that he had gave where they asked him about the portal. And he said, well, we sit down as a staff. And staff said, there's nothing out there as good as what we got recruiting. Well, then you're not doing a good job recruiting because they're whipping your butt. Yeah. So you got to be honest, and you got to make progress. You and I know that when we coached, I wasn't out to win a state championship from day one. I was out to make these kids better and make sure that next week we were better than we were last week.
Closing the gap, man.
If we're not, then we're not doing our job.
Right.
I mean,
100%.
In my opinion. And it's the same thing whether it's pro or college or high school or whatever it is. And I think what's happened now is I think Canales has gotten comfortable enough that he can start implementing, and he has done evaluations of what he thinks needs to be done.
Yep.
And that's the other thing that you get with a young coach like he is. He doesn't have a whole lot of preconceived notions that he thinks makes him an automatic success because of where he's been and who he is.
Right.
And he's more about evaluating what he's got to work with and then going from there.
Yeah, he's the thing that he's not is he's not emotionally immature. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is I'm not saying that people that are bad people. What I'm saying is often their actions, because the immaturity, lead to maybe things that aren't in line with how the sustainable success, or even success gets started. And then, like you said, trying to make it better each week. And he's not that. He's very calm. Listen to the interviews after the game on the radio while we were riding home. There are a lot of things that he's forward looking. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he wants to win as much as anybody, but he's forward looking. He can start to see what he's got to actually work with, and I am very excited. I have gone from somebody that was very disinterested in what the Panthers were doing to someone that if they continue on this road and give me the sense that they are trying to build something and be a contender, then I'm going to invest in them.
And that's me. That's all I'm saying.
I'm not wasting my time with BS, Laney.
I've never written off the Panthers.
I'm a fan. I love football. I love my Steelers, but I'm not wasting time with that.
I'm not writing off the Panthers.
No, I'm not either.
And I wasn't writing off the Steelers. It was another situation where I didn't think they were making fair evaluations of who they were and what they needed to do to get there. And they finally have fixed that.
Oh, yeah.
And I understand the process.
Right.
There's a lot of relationship between Dabo and Mike Tomlin.
Yes.
They only have their way, and it's hard for them to get out of their own way,
And with sustainable success, they've had such great success in the past that, that's one of the things that I talk to, the boys about a lot is, getting there. A lot of people say, getting there is the toughest part. I don't believe that as much as being able to sustain it and then continually find a way to improve it.
Understanding how you got there.
Yeah, and always, that's a great example. There's a reason the pyramids have such wide foundations.
Sure.
So they can continue to go higher. It's the same thing, whether it be us as individuals, relationships, whatever it may be. The broader they are and the stronger the foundation, the higher it can go.
But you learn from that layer and apply it to the next layer and apply it.
And it stacks heavy, Lanny.
That's right. But that's the way that it works.
Heavy.
That's the way that it works.
Look how long it took Baker Mayfield to
That's what Richie said. Yeah.
better.
Look at how long it took him to mature to get there.
Who said that?
Richie.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great. But okay, so to Richie's point,
good morning,
Garrick and I were talking about that. Baker, the athleticism and the grind and the grit was never the issue. It was making himself as a person better, and he did that. He continued to work through things. You're talking about emotionally immature. It doesn't get any much worse for a quarterback than him and Johnny Manziel.
Yeah.
What
Johnny couldn't handle it. Baker understood.
And what
he needed to
Baker
make changes.
decided to do was, you know what? I'm better than this.
Yep.
I know I can be. Athletically, I am what I am and going to make plays. But how do I become a champion? How do I take it to the next level? How am I productive? And I couldn't be happier for the guy because it is a major turnaround in growth and development, which is wonderful to see from someone that made so many emotionally immature mistakes, younger in life, as a player and as a person, but just trying to find that way and becoming better, and talk about all the time closing the gap. And he displayed that the other night. He got hurt, came back in. Our defense at Carolina, and this is the first time I ever said our. I like the Panthers. I'm in with them. From what I've seen, and I'm gonna go in with them.
Can you name more than two starters on defense?
On defense,
I can name. And
I can name most.
Well, I say that going into this week's game, no. But when I got there, these players.
One's old, one's new.
Yeah, Clowney and some of those guys. J.C. Horn. I like Clowney's role. They did a great job getting him on and off the field in certain situations. And managing his energy.
He's not an every down player.
He didn't play third downs, did he?
A couple of third downs that were longer.
But he's not an every down player.
That's right, and he's not an every down. That's right. It was like he'd take a couple of plays, and basically his situation was down in distance, I thought, instead of what down. And I think his experience from playing the screen pass and also being able to pass rush and sniff those things out, that's a lot of experience on that defense. And he was great with those younger players. I watched him talking to them.
Yes.
You're talking about maturing.
There's a chemistry there now that wasn't there before.
Do the same with Hayward. With
Cam Hayward. G was talking about that. He had such a good game. Hayward did, this week. G was talking about how he works so well with younger players. How much longer will he play? And I think he plays as long as he brings that value.
I think
he's a Freddie Freeman of the Steelers.
We've talked about this, and sometimes, and I can't remember where you fell on this, but I think there are certain things as good losses because of what you learn. We talk about learning for
experiences,
your
right.
favorites,
Right,
from
right,
your
right,
failures.
right.
Richie talks about that. He said, while they got a long way to go, you can see improvement in play and seeing with the results on the field. Records don't show it, but when they take a team like Kansas City and Tampa Bay and some of these they used to, I mean, the offense was completely anemic.
Right.
I mean,
it's not anymore.
Completely anemic. And I'll tell you another thing.
It's not.
I think Andy Dalton has played a large part.
He's a good dude,
in the development and the maturing of
Knows
Bryce
his role.
Young.
Andy Dalton. All right.
Danny Dimes will never be a Andy Dalton.
Right.
Daniel Jones, because
Yeah.
he still thinks he's a starter because of where he was drafted. No.
And the Andy Dalton, like you like they showed things there, at the stadium, the guys in the tunnel. He's walking down through there with Bryce before
Young
the game.
is always with him on sidelines.
They're talking with him. Think about Andy Dalton. Where is he in his career? He says, you know what? I get to come out here every week, work, and I could go into the game at any time. We're one play away from me being in there.
That's right.
Or one play away from me being out and the next guy being in. I think as an experienced veteran, you can see how much he enjoys where he is and what he's doing, and his emotions, and I say that, actions speak louder than his words.
You got to get to the point to where you understand where you are and what you have to offer and contribute, and that comes with self-evaluation, and a lot of people can't do that. I'll give you another example. I listened to the Talking Heads yesterday, and you don't want to see it, but you've got Aaron Rodgers going the road of Johnny Unitas when he can't say quit.
Right.
And now that's the way you're going to go out, and it looks bad. That one play where he kind of tried to get in front of a back to block, he got blown up.
Yeah.
I mean, he just got blown, and that's not who he is anyway.
After this season,
But if you ask him, I'll guarantee you, he still thinks he can start.
See, here's the thing, and you know this. I've already told you about these guys. There are these two guys that I watch, and they were talking about this. Like, Aaron Rodgers is not Aaron Rodgers anymore.
No, he's not.
He's making questionable decisions. And I think if the Achilles tear did anything, probably tanked his mobility. Because in some situations,
and he hadn't been greatly mobile in the last 5 years anyway.
And it would have been like, maybe he would have took off in that moment, but now he's like, I got to fit this pass.
He can't. Well, he can't. Yeah.
But and he's still Tom Brady was Tom Brady until the day he retired. He can probably still go out there and be Tom Brady. Aaron Rodgers is not Aaron Rodgers anymore, but he still parades around like he's Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. And two.
He's a shadow of who he was.
Yeah, well, the thing about it is, if you line him up and you rank all the quarterbacks in NFL, he's still in the top tier. And a lot of people say, no, he's not. He's playing terrible. Now, wait a minute. If you take him and insert him, you can insert him on any team in this league. Okay? Number one, he's a starter. All right, you say, no, not with the Kansas City Chiefs. Wait a minute. Patrick Mahomes isn't there. Rodgers goes in. The Steelers, which I wish he would have gone to, because I'm good with Russ. I'm okay with all this.
Aaron Rodgers would have never gotten along with Mike Tomlin.
He wouldn't have. Let me tell you the difference. There's a guy named T.J. Watt that walks in that locker room, and he's one of those guys that says, "Hey, you can be you, but we are we."
Right.
And if you don't do that, without coming out and saying it, he's one of those guys that says, Cam, you are going to die if you don't conform to this, without even having to say it.
Yeah.
And so it's an understood thing. It's kind of like when a lion walks in the room, he doesn't come in and say, hey, I'm a lion, look at me. When the lion walks in, you know that that's a lion, right? That's T.J. Watt. There are certain people on teams and certain coaches that have that ability. And it's like, I had somebody tell me one time, going into a school, said, well, you can't control that player. I said, whoa, wait a minute. Hold on. Hold on a minute. It's not about controlling the player, all right? It's about them doing their job and being the best they can be, which will help the team.
And you doing your job.
Right.
Right.
And so what we had an understanding was, these are the things I'm going to ask you to do. These are things I'm going to tell you to do.
Right.
the choice is you either do them or you don't play. I don't care about your feelings. I don't care about your basically BS.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we're doing. So when he met the Lion, the kid ended up conforming, and what I did was I stopped addressing, like I didn't address that person because he had oppositional defiance with statements. I addressed him with questions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I said, whoever, like he had a conflict with the teacher before baseball season even started. I said, who has taught you to speak with adults like that? Not, you can't talk to us like that. We're doing it. No. I said, where did you learn that? Where did you learn that was okay?
Mm-hmm.
That way you defeat the narcissism and, in some cases, not in that case, but in some cases, the kid that has, you know, the issue of, you know, oppositional defiance based on things that had happened years ago in their life or what. It doesn't matter. We have to address the problem and help them be the best they can be. And, yeah, I think that's where Baker made the turn and Johnny Manziel didn't.
Yeah, yeah.
And, Laney, I like these guys in the NFL. I like these younger players. You got some good older guys in there. Everybody's playing football. I didn't see any, you know, shenanigans or anything going on out there.
Everything's
this, that, or the other.
I knew it would never last.
No.
It weeds itself out because –
well, we had a time in period, and that's okay. You go through things in the country, but you got to stop the crazy.
Yeah.
You know, you got to get back to common sense and doing the right thing for the right reasons.
Yep.
And, you know, understanding and recognizing there's only one truth. It's not, well, you can make up your own and that's what you live by.
Right.
Because you may try to do that, but you end up in epic failure.
Yep.
Because that is not the way. And
let me take a quick break to make sure this works, and then we come back. A couple college football questions before we get out of here today.
Whether it's a sit-down meal or a call-in for the drive-thru, Brookwood Cafe and Catering is the answer. A variety of meats, vegetables, and desserts cooked daily, or a hot sandwich from the grill, they have what you're looking for to satisfy your taste buds. If you need catering from 5 to 500, Brookwood has you covered as well. Stop by Brookwood Cafe and Catering at 202 Providence Mill Road in Maiden. Don't forget breakfast daily till 11 a.m. Open Tuesday 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., Wednesday through Saturday 6 a.m. till 8 p.m., and Sunday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Call 828-428-8944 to place your order today.
If you ask around, you'll find Burke Mortuary has a reputation for excellence and commitment to value. They've built a reputation of trust for more than 35 years. Burke Mortuary is proud to offer personal attention, meaningful tributes, and the area's most affordable prices. They're also proud to offer you beautiful, state-of-the-art facilities. It's the perfect place to honor your loved one. So when choosing a funeral home, the choice is easy. Choose Burke Mortuary with locations in Maiden and Newton.
Covenant Church began as a vision of just over 100 people in 1984. Since then, Covenant Church has grown and currently located at 2168 Gastonia Highway in Lincoln. The Sunday schedule includes early morning worship at 8:30, Sunday school at 9:45, and morning worship at 10:45. Their ministries extend beyond Sunday. Visit their website at www.covenantchurch.church to see all they have to offer, and better yet, stop by and see for yourself. Covenant Church may be just what you're looking for a new church home. First Federal Savings Bank has been serving Lincoln County since 1940. And as it has been from the beginning, customer service is a priority to First Federal Savings Bank. They want to get to know you by name. First Federal Savings Bank has the convenience, the products, and the services that the larger banks have, but with hometown people that you see throughout your community. Stop in and visit one of their 4 convenient locations and see what First Federal Savings Bank has to offer you. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Untangling your headphones, finding the right remote, saying goodbye to your favorite shirt that hasn't fit in 10 years. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with Auto Owners, insurance doesn't have to be one of them. Auto Owners works with independent agents who live in your community and answer when you call, so you can worry about more important things, like finding a new favorite shirt. That's simple human sense.
Call Mooney Insurance in Maiden or East Lincoln Insurance in Denver or visit mooneyinsurance.com. At Stifel Nicholas, we're committed to offering investors personalized investment guidance. We're a full-service organization with department staffed with professionals that specialize in a wide range of investment opportunities, from the most conservative to the most aggressive. We strive to give each account, regardless of size, careful, individual attention. Call 4Rembert today at 828-624-7300. Stifel Nicholas, member SIPC and the New York Stock Exchange.
Okay, it looks like we played some spots. I still don't have music, but we're back and we're here, so that's better than we have been. So we're closer than we were. I'll have it fixed by Thursday, I promise. Couple things. Did you watch Ohio State, Michigan?
I did.
I
we
watched
did.
the entire game.
Okay.
Yeah, we did.
Okay. Now, my question is, and we'll differ on this because we differ on Dabo. Is Ryan Day the fit for Ohio State?
No.
No.
Now, and let me tell you,
their biggest rival.
understand, but take that part out of it. First of all, he had never been a head coach anywhere and got handed that. Okay,
Handed.
In this past Saturday's game, the biggest thing that was bad is it was almost like I'm going to prove a point that I can do whatever I want to because we're the almighty Ohio State. He didn't even go out there and run the offense that he was best at because we're going to do this.
Is that what he was, an offensive coordinator before?
Yes, he was. He was an offensive coordinator.
Where was he an offensive coordinator?
Ohio State.
Ohio State. So
Now, where he came from there, I have no idea. I'm sorry.
They have two of the best running backs in the country, arguably, and still got outran. Which, if you take a look at the last, I think 22 matchups, as said, the team that had more rushing yards is the team that won.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they gave some really good statistics on, what it takes to win those games, and
he was only a coordinator for 2 years at Ohio State. Prior to that, he was a quarterback coach for 2 years in the NFL.
Yep.
He was an OC for 2 years in college.
Mm-hmm.
But never anything. Yep, Boston College, Temple. I mean, come on, give me a break.
Like,
but he, I don't know. It's just
if you're this the thing, Lenny. If you're going to coach at places like that, you have to win the big games. It doesn't mean that you win them every year, but there are more inconsistencies with the build-up and the hype. It's almost as bad as the Dallas Cowboys.
it might be worse.
Okay. It's almost to that point. Now, this is the thing. They're not going to slide that much because they lost in overtime to the number one team. And if we're given passes, you can't, not you, third person, one can't say, well, they got beat by Michigan, they should slide, when Notre Dame got beat by Northern Illinois earlier in the year.
Yeah, but see.
Okay, so we can't we can't do that. We can't do that.
To me, there's no slide. You are either responsible for what you did, or you're not.
Yeah, I meant
or
like
you're not.
in the rankings.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But no, they're giving Day a pass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have what for 5 years? He's gotten beat for 5 straight years.
No. 4 out of.
Okay.
He's,
Four
he's
out of
1
5.
and 4, because the only year that he lost was when Michigan was 2-6, I think.
The only year he won.
The only year he won.
That's the only year he won, and he nearly lost that.
Well, so this is the thing, and you and I talked about this before. This is one of the things that we had to figure out. Number one, if we're going to have conferences, then we need to have divisions. So the division champions, or north, south, east, west, how many you got, 50, whatever. But you've got to come through with championship play at some point. This thing about, well, we're going to put the best 4 teams in. Well, when we try to do that, then well, so-and-so is deserving because of their record.
But the problem is you have no definitive definition of best.
But
and that's why it
but
doesn't
see,
work.
But this the thing. This is where you can't satisfy everybody. But you take a group of people that watch football, have played it, understand it, and coached it, and you put them in a room, and you say, let's list the best 4 teams. You cannot leave Georgia out of that last year.
No, you
can't. You can't say, well, Washington's undefeated,
but you're doing
so
that,
we're going to put them in.
But you're doing that based on an eye test. not by criteria.
But that is where
and all the teams are that way.
That is what
saying.
the criteria was, though, was the best 4 teams.
But you can't define best.
But
that's the thing.
But see, I think you can. The problem is you can't stand by it because people want to throw in analytics to screw it up. My thing, and I don't disagree with what they're saying. My thing is, you've got 2 choices. You either get 2 or 3 people on the committee. I would start with Mac Brown and Nick Saban as 1 and 2. Okay, not necessarily order.
Yeah.
But you get 3 of them together and let them pick the top 4, which is never going to happen. Or you have championship play all the way through, and that way it doesn't matter.
I don't want.
Doesn't matter.
I don't want anybody picking. That's what I don't want. I don't want anybody picking.
Well, no, I'm just saying.
Here's what we do.
If that's going to be the criteria, the
I
best
understand.
4. Then you put 3 people in there that understand football as well as anybody in the country at that level.
But you could out of those 3 people, you could have 3 different opinions on those 3 best based on the criteria that they have in their head that they determine makes them the best.
Yeah,
right,
it always is.
That's why you
disagree
can't have anything
But
that
you-
isn't picked.
Right, but
and
what you do
done on the field.
is you list your top 4 teams, you list your top 6, and then you eliminate it to 4. There have to be if the criteria is going to be get the best, and this is what it was. If it's going to be get the best 4 in, now it's 12. We got 12 in. I'm sorry, but when you play in a conference such as the SEC, and you have that grind every week,
9 and 3.
nobody can convince me if and I mean nobody, that if Ole Miss is playing in Utah's league,
Oh no,
that they're not number
undefeated.
1 or 2 in the country right
They're
now. Okay,
undefeated.
but where do they play?
I
In the-
understand.
in the Southern
Okay,
Eastern
so now
Conference.
what you got to do is you got to say,
Then you take the top 2 teams from the Big Ten, top 2 teams from the SEC, because nobody else is on that level. That's where they want to get to, and that's not right. I don't care. That's not
I
right.
agree with you. So the way to do this, there's only one way to do it, and it's to go back to the thing that they got out of to start off with. You have a championship, not the smell test. You have championship style play, just like when you were in high school football. I remember a very good Fred T. Ford team in 1982. All right, going through the conference, beating everybody but Bessemer City. Brian Kimball just ran all over people. Their defense is really good with Grant Pitts and Kelly Brown and Marty Mull and Kenny Wagner and all these. I remember I was like 9 or 10 years old. I remember these guys like it was yesterday. They were in a wishbone offense. They had a grounded pound. Coach Foster, Dickie Foster was the head coach. Jerry Copas was the line coach. My dad was a backs and receivers coach. Claude Brewer. Randy Foster, defensive coordinator. We're talking about good football. They got beat at Bessemer City 7-6. We're a much better team. Bessemer was good. But Bessemer ended up going after losing the game. I can't remember who they lost to. But because they beat Fred T. Ford head-to-head, they got the number 1 seed, and then Ford had to go to what back then was called the Division II playoffs in 2A, where they only played 2 or 3 games.
Yep.
Bessemer City advanced on to big boy playoffs. The only way to fix this is to have divisions, 6 to 8 teams in each division, and then you have a championship. If you have 24 teams in your league, you don't have 12 teams. You don't play, you don't play 11 games and all. You have 4 divisions. All right, you play everybody in your division, and then you advance to the next one, and then you advance to the championship game, and then you go play for national championship. That's the only way to fix this.
But the only way to fix it, and they have thrown this out there, okay? And I like to get it out there because I want the field wide enough that your body of work takes care of itself, okay? I would like to see 8 divisions, conferences, whatever you want to call them. I want to see them with 10 teams in it. That's 80 teams, okay? That's
so they play
80
9 games, right?
Play 9 games. You got 3 or 4 that you can play non-conference, whatever you want to do.
Right.
But you play everybody inside your division. And then your non-conference, those should be like the NFL in that you're going to play one team from this division and one team from this division. You know, the NFL plays divisions.
Oh, yeah, right.
They know, so they've got some commonality.
Right. Yeah. They can measure it throughout
but
the
then
year.
wherever you finish, those are your 8 teams that go.
Then it takes care of the Florida State issue last year. They were undefeated. Okay, their quarterback got hurt. Okay, but they're still undefeated and they're going.
Yep.
That takes care of listen, they won their league, now they're advancing. Win your league.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is when Indiana does not play, again, I'm just going off the cuff here, does not play Ohio State or Michigan, right?
Mm-hmm.
They haven't played Ohio State. They play Penn State.
They played Ohio State in the
They played Ohio State, right?
But
got
they-
beat.
but
Have
they
they played
played-
Penn State this year?
I don't think so.
No.
But
Barely
I
beat
agree.
Michigan.
Even the ACC
Right, I'm
was
just
the
saying
same way when
yes.
it had 2 divisions.
This is just
Yeah.
complete craziness. I'm sitting there watching, and I'm looking to score Stanford such and such, Duke this, and that's an ACC game in soccer.
But let me tell you the other
Where'd they
thing.
fly? Both mean Kansas.
Whether you like it or not,
doing?
the other thing that's going to force its hand to get there. The other point that's going to be made from a gambling side.
Yeah.
There's so much money in that. They don't want to see these mediocre matchups. They want to see real
Right, you bet
matchups
on it,
that people
yeah.
will lay the money down to do it. And it's all generated, and I'm okay with all that. I just don't like to see anything that's left up to somebody's opinion. I've told you this. In sports, I never wanted my girls – I'm not throwing off on it here, okay, so don't blow me up over it. Cheerleading, gymnastics, diving, dance.
Oh, because they're scored by individual
You're scored by
judges.
somebody that may not like the color of your uniform or the color of your outfit.
Right.
I want it to be handled based on what you do as an
Horse show.
individual or team.
Yeah, dog show or horse show.
I don't like that because you don't have any way to and like the thing with Florida State or some of these others. If somebody falls into a championship because they took care of business in their league, I'm not going to be the one that says that you can't go. I put this in front of you to win it. You won it, so there you go. I'm going to give you the opportunity to play on.
I agree with that.
Because you can't do that.
And
you're changing the rules.
Yeah.
You're changing the rules in the middle of the game.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. You're exactly right. And the problem is the criteria did not say that.
Yeah.
And
that's what I'm saying. It was so loose.
But see, the problem is people weren't satisfied with the conference championship. Well, so-and-so, like 2 teams finished with equal record, but one beat the other one lost in another close game to somebody else. Well, it's not fair. They don't get to go. This is the thing. We're not teaching truth when we talk about it's not fair.
Yeah.
What's
Nothing's fair. It's not about fair.
No.
It's about
Fair
handling what
means-
you've got to do and coming up with a winner and a loser.
Fair means somebody got, one side got what they want, the other side decided they just give into it or say that's fine. Yeah, the competition is incredibly healthy. The one thing I would like to see is if your idea ever came to fruition about the 8 or 10 conferences.
Oh, that's
with the
coming.
teams, okay?
That's coming.
What I would like to see is every one of them have to play one smaller school. And the reason I say that is so football can continue to thrive at all levels.
I'm not as much on that as there's so much money in this. There needs to be a pool that's set aside that the upper echelon gives these guys.
Well,
and I'm okay with you doing that.
I think life is about experiences too.
I do.
I used to not understand that when I was younger.
Yep.
Because it was all about work, showing up, doing the job, getting it done, that kind of thing. But the more that I look at this and see how the development of young people, especially in today's world, and the positive impacts that need to come from, compassionate development along with accountability and development, you need to be able to have a program like a Western Carolina that goes and plays at Tuscaloosa. You need to have a program like, like UNC Charlotte that goes and plays at, Texas. These are things that are once in a lifetime, or like when App went to Michigan. It's not so much because the upset is coming. What it is, it provides an opportunity. The Appalachian beating Michigan, in some ways, was the greatest thing that ever happened in Boone. In some ways,
Put them on the map.
Some things
I won't argue with that.
The worst.
I won't argue with that. Put
And
them
I
on
don't
the
mean
map.
the worst from a mismanagement. I'm saying, the growth of things, keeping up with that. How do we, there's so much that goes on, at a university when they have a boom. It's almost like an oil boom.
Yeah.
With that town.
And the rematch was even more lucrative than the first one because Michigan did not want to have an all-time record of 0-1. I was working with them then. They got over $1 million for the game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They got all their expenses paid to go up there.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And they were guaranteed a national TV audience. They got a national game on ESPN at noon. Now, they knew they were going to get their butt handed to them because you're not going up there and sneaking up on anybody the second time. Yeah. But at the same time, I understand that. And those are memories that will last forever. When I was in high school, one of the recruiting team or recruiting things was where the teams were going to play. Like, for example, a big selling point in South Carolina, we take a trip to Hawaii every year. There's a trip to Hawaii to go, it's a week's vacation, go to Hawaii. I'm trying to remember. I want to say one of Carolina's big ones was a trip to Norman to play Oklahoma, that kind of thing. Let me switch gears quickly. Go ahead, G.
How are you going to say that Memphis is better than Texas A&M, Louisville, Duke, Florida, LSU?
So, but I mean, in what context?
What he's talking about is the AP rankings are out, and Memphis is number 25, and the other teams that he just mentioned are not.
Okay, here's the thing.
No.
I don't want an AP ranking.
Because
that's another beauty contest.
Right, but that's what he's talking about.
Oh, I know.
You need 100 votes to be able to get into the top 25.
Right.
How's Texas A&M not?
Texas A&M
they were number one SEC for
has 93 votes. You're telling me Memphis and Army got 100 votes
the problem
to be
is,
better than Texas A&M?
You take a bigger fall when you're on top and you lose.
And rightfully so.
A bigger fall and you take huge gains when you're not as good.
But this is the problem. Not if you're Ohio State.
I know.
No.
Well, but that goes back to your background, your history, and that should factor in. It should be about what you did today. I don't care what you did 10 years ago.
No, agree. I wonder what Bill will say about this if you ask him on Friday about where that falls in.
Oh, I will.
I will, because he's so objective and even though he's an Ohio guy, he's still very realistic and talks about. He just brings a lot of perspective.
The journalism side of it overrules the personal side.
Yes, I mean he's able to bring clarity, and he doesn't rush to emotional judgment on things. And I'm wondering, even if he's being Ohio and Ohio football and Ohio State and all this. I'm wondering where he falls with this, Lanny, because this is they lost Oregon by 1. But my question is, what does that say about Oregon?
I mean,
and the other question I got is, we got teams from 2 different coasts playing in the same conference. Mm-hmm. And what some people will rightfully say, well, travel today is different.
Doesn't matter.
And this is what's happening. When Maryland left the ACC, a lot of interest in basketball went with it. Mm-hmm. To another conference. Now that Carolina plays Syracuse, these are and Pitt or Duke plays them or State plays them. These are matchups that people look forward to in, like a non-conference or like the NCAA tournament. Well, the problem is everybody's the same freaking conference. You can play your same conference 3 or 4 times. It's crazy.
Other side, other side is
nothing exciting
the football thing needs to be done. With these divisions needs to be football only, and every other sport with colleges needs to become more regional and get back to where it used to be.
Yeah,
like where you can do home and homes with stuff.
East, west, north, south.
And you're a Carolina guy, so let me throw this question.
No, East Carolina.
East Carolina.
You don't like Carolina?
No.
Okay.
But go ahead.
Who's going to be the next coach at North Carolina?
It depends on if they want to win it. If they want to try to win a national championship, if they want to win a national championship, they've got to go out and pay the money and get the guy. And people aren't going to like who it is. It may be somebody's controversial. But you know what? You went through a run of coaches after Mac Brown left the first time. You let him go. Should have never done that. Ever. Okay? But what's done is done. All right? You got a run of coaches that came through. Well, it's within the Carolina family. This is what we want to do.
Got to get away from that, too.
That you know what? That's fine, but you're going to reap what you sow. And then here we are again. Okay, here we are from a fan standpoint, here in, Tar Heel basketball and, football, everything. Here we are. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? And there's kids that are jumping in the portal right and left right now, or as soon as they can get in, that are not waiting on who the next coach is going to be. And
snooze, you lose.
This is the thing. Either go out and go get the person that's going to bring you a national championship, or don't complain about it. And there's only a very tiny, minute pool that gives you that opportunity. And a couple of those aren't very well liked, but they can do it. And you got to decide if it's about your feelings, which they tend to talk a lot about in that region.
Carolina is a school that cannot afford to bring in somebody that lives on the edge of controversy. Because they've already got those black eyes.
Well, no, I understand, but it's amazing to me that a place that promotes ideas and things of a certain nature is not holds a different standard to this over here.
Yeah,
there's been a lot of mixed signaling going on here, and they can do what they want to do. That's their business. I don't care.
But that's because they want to give this appearance. But
they know it's about. It's a style versus substance.
They know behind closed doors they're not going to go that right.
I completely agree with that.
They tell people what they want to hear.
Completely agree.
They're not going to follow through.
This is what we're going to do, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, we're going to go over here and do this. I mean, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as somebody telling me, well, this is the way we've always done it. I really don't know what that means. Well, you've always done it that way. I mean, okay, does that mean that they're not ways that can constantly be improved to close the gap as time goes on and things change? And this is the way it's always been done. Okay, that's the way it's going to be.
That doesn't float with me. Let me get a couple comments before we get out of here. Todd said best city quarterback back then was Jesse James.
In 82 and 83. Oh, man, they were good, dude. They were really good.
Let's see. Richie said he likes John Summerall. John Summerall is the guy that I'm not mistaken. He is Tulane, who I like and who I think will be a good fit because of how much time he's already spent in this area is Jamie Chadwell.
Who?
Jamie Chadwell. Coastal, Liberty now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean that's because he knows the area, and I think he would do better.
Well, I mean that was kind of the Mike Houston thing, going to East Carolina after going through all the stages. I mean, from high school to 2, 1, 2, or 2, 3, and 1, and do all these
John
things.
Davis, good morning.
But my thing is, and I'm sure they'll get a great person in there to lead. And don't get me wrong, I don't think you should ever sacrifice your character integrity to try to win games. But at the same time, what are you looking for, and how much are you willing to take for what you're going to get? What I like to do personally is I like to see the best of something. I want to invest in the best of something that has the most quality and value that it can bring. This is a fair question. Nick Saban comes to Carolina, and he's not going to, but let's just throw it out there. If he comes to Chapel Hill, how long is it before they're a national title contender?
3 years.
They're not, because they're not going to put the resources behind
2 years.
They won't put the resources.
They have to if they pay him that money.
I understand, but I don't see it.
And
I'll tell you why. And this is a personal opinion, okay? They will never be a successful football program that overshines the basketball.
But they already
No. But see, if they bring in Saban, they're showing that they're starting to get serious about football.
Well, first of all,
and
they're not going to do
Saban can Saban is a coach that recruiting wise is probably one of the better ones. I mean, you look at the NFL talent.
But the other side of that, that's why he got out, because it's not about recruiting anymore, too.
But this is the thing. This is it. If you invest, if you are willing to make an investment into someone like that, and that means that it's full commitment. He's not going to come there just because of money. He doesn't need that. What he needs is resources and motivation to know that I can do, that I'm going to be able to do this here.
You're going to go to Ohio State.
They're getting to the point where at Carolina where, in the fans, and I'm not talking about at Carolina, but with the fan base, that they've got to ask themselves, what are we doing? You're asking us to donate all this money to come here to this school and watch these games, and this is not happening.
Well,
so what happens, Lane? The money dries up. You either invest it or it goes away. You can't get something for cheap, good, and fast. You can have 2 to 3, but you can't have all 3.
Let me tell you what I think would, from a Carolina football standpoint, would satisfy donors. Okay, and I truly believe this is compete on a regular basis for a conference championship and occasionally make the playoffs. I don't think there's any grandeur at Chapel Hill thinking they're going to be – there's not any grandeur at Clemson to be a perennial national champion contender. I'm a fan. I played there. I've never thought that. They got there because the rules were such that recruiting was the most important thing, and that guy that's in charge now was the best.
Did it better than
was
anybody.
The best.
And absolutely
and the problem is he's not the best coach. He was best at getting the talent in and weeding out, and they would go somewhere else. And now that that's not the case, he can't compete on that level.
No, I mean –
well, now it's the Wild Wild West.
Right.
And this
now,
chaos.
I take that back. I think he can, but I think he has to look at it. I'm going to not only evaluate recruiting, I'm going to evaluate portal, and I'm going to evaluate portal honestly, fairly. Like I told you about Marty Herney. Marty never wanted to pick up people on free agency because his theory was, well, if the team they play for don't want him, why should we want him?
But I understand that, but at the same time, I don't.
That's exactly right.
I don't, because there's different values and sets of ability that players bring to different teams.
I agree.
It has nothing to do. I mean, how many times has you as a coach or me as a coach, been there and said, a kid, we're going in to coach a team for the first time, whatever, and then somebody with a preconceived notion of the kid says, well, they'll never do this, or you could expect them to do this, this, and this. Everybody has a set of skills, whether it's enhanced or not fully developed or even realized yet. And it's about contribution of where they are and improving to get better. I mean, that's why we see these kids, like sophomores, freshmen in high school, and all of a sudden they're juniors or even a senior, like in Coleman Williams, like Andrew's boy. He completely changed his body from the time he was in 11th grade to he was in 12th grade. Completely. I didn't recognize him walking from the gym to the football field during, towards the end of the summer because he'd gotten so much bigger and gained so much weight.
I don't think you go into anything and all that you're using is previous history.
Exactly.
You can use it. That is something that you mix into your formula of evaluation.
Right.
But, I told you when we were coaching the little kids, they may thought they were a running back or a wide receiver or a tight end. No, you're not. You're a lineman.
That's right.
You are where you make the most contribution to the team at this stage in your development and at this stage with this team.
And one thing that I agree with that. One thing I always encourage other coaches to do, let's say a kid wanted to, play. I'm just giving an example. Let's say a kid wanted to play wide receiver, but he was a little bigger. He'd grown over the last couple of years, and he's more of that tight end, kind of fullback. I think, H-back is what they're using a lot now. And, he still wants to play wide out. You say, you know what? And just have that honest conversation, but also say, look, I'm going to give you the opportunity to try out for that position and try it because you've done that. And you've been good at it. But you have really started, growing and getting bigger and stronger, and you've gained some weight, and your leverage can be much better utilized at this position than it can at this one. However, I'm still going to give you an opportunity, and I'm going to evaluate you, and then we're going to come back and have the conversation. Yeah, we need to stay where you wanted to try out and what you wanted to do, or we're going to talk about where I think you should be and what's best for the team. And that way you're not automatically pigeonholing somebody after you watch them do one thing one time.
Yep.
That is a disservice because then it becomes about you and not about the experience of the player. Because you can have both.
But the problem comes from here's where the problem comes from. The problem comes from when you give a kid an opportunity and they can't evaluate what they just did.
Yeah. That's why you have to be the
in
adult
their mind.
and explain,
in their mind, they think they're still.
Right.
But you didn't show me that. How can you?
Right.
But I can do that. No, you can't.
No, and that's okay. That's how you learn. And being told no is okay.
Because I've had tight ends before that thought they had the greatest hands in the world, but they weren't. But you know what they became? They could still play tight end, but they were a tackle.
But they were a tackle.
They were a blocker.
They were a
blocking tight
end.
That's exactly right.
And the line player,
Yeah.
and that's okay.
I'm not throwing you to pumpkin.
No, and that's okay.
I'm not throwing you to pumpkin.
And Stephen Lowe's a great example of this. When he was in high school and talking about football, he's a great tight end, a really good inside linebacker. He was a great high school player. But in baseball, he wanted, initially to maybe be an infielder and do these things. But his skill set was much more suited for outfield, like one of the corner position outfield, and then catching.
Right.
He was one of our, I say backup. He was one of our catchers that, if we need to give one of our other guys a rest or move things around, I could feel comfortable putting him back there. And because from the time he's in the 9th grade, he started buying in and getting better. When we played in the state championship when he was a junior, he caught game 2 about 4, 5, 6 innings. 5, I think it's 4 or 5 innings that saved us. Because that way our catcher didn't have to catch 23 innings in 22 hours.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's about, and Steve and I had that conversation. I said, hey, look, you're getting bigger, stronger, you're swinging the bat good. You could play first, but you can run. So let's play one of the corners here. Let's work on that skill set every day. Work on your stuff behind your plate because your feet are good. Hands are getting softer receiving the ball, right? Works on his arm every day. All of these things. And that's what I'm talking about. You can give players the opportunity to try the things that they want to do, and then you can fairly evaluate them and say, listen, you know what? Could you play there? Yeah, probably. But I have 2 other guys or 3 other guys that are much better, that are a little older. But you know what? Your skill set is fit for this where you can make the biggest contribution. You know what that rascal did? He didn't maybe started 1 or 2 games all year, but one of our players got hurt in the playoffs, and he went in and played right field and hit 2 home runs the first playoff game.
Right.
Come on, man. That's what I'm talking about. And not every kid's experience comes out like that, but they can feel like they're a value member, which they are, because it's all about them.
Yeah, that's right.
All about them. That's the whole point of high school scholastic athletics. It's not to go out there and I'm going to get mine. I'm going to get my money. You know what? That's great, but I don't want to hear that around me.
Oh, I know.
It's about the players and trying to become professional people instead of a T-shirt salesman. No, of course, you're very good at that, but that's not what I'm talking about at 15, 16 years old.
Right.
When they can go out and learn a skill set.
Yep.
That can allow them to not only have Tiger Man tees, but also on a radio station, also on a newspaper, to be a computer analyst. And you see what I'm saying? There's all kinds of opportunities through how we do growth and development. One last story. So Irwin High School played West Charlotte this past Friday. And I coached at Irwin many years ago. And the guy that's the head coach there is Rodney Pruitt. And his daddy was a coach at Burns a long time. Do you remember his daddy? Okay. And his dad's a great guy. Okay, and I coached with Rodney up at Irwin. He was out of college 3 or 4 or 5 years. He coached me on the defense. He was very good. As a matter of fact, before I was leaving, he was actually going to be the defensive coordinator before I went to Madison. So, but he's really good at what he does. What's interesting is about that time, this is in 04, 05, about that time Buncombe County made a huge investment into fielding or to placing all their fields in the county in turf.
Mm-hmm.
And so they did all the football fields, and they went in with Asheville High because you have Asheville City,
right,
and then you have the 5 high schools around it.
Buncombe.
And I'm talking about the county schools. And really good concepts. But they went in together so they would get a little bit better package deal.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting is people say, yeah, but it's a waste. And this coaches spend a tremendous amount of time lining a field, mowing it, fertilizing it, watering it. A lot of resources go into that. What I found most interesting so they're out there and they're laying the turf down, and so for spring practice, we're not having to line the field off or do anything. We're just, we're going to practice out there on the new turf.
Right.
And I was talking to this kid that I had just absolutely loved him, but never really got to know him. And because I wasn't out there painting the field or lining it off or mowing or anything, I was able to talk to him. Well, I found out that there wasn't any food in the home.
Mm-hmm.
And so, obviously able to intervene there, get some things going, and make sure the family was okay. He had, I think, a couple of siblings at home that were a little younger, but there just wasn't anything. They were always worried about what they were going to eat on the weekends or during breaks, things that a lot of us take for granted, on an everyday basis. And what I found most interesting is when we talk about turfing fields, and I think Lincoln County, that was the greatest thing they could have done, because it's about the quality and depth of the relationships instead of going out and mowing and fertilizing and basically wasting time and resources. People say, yeah, but it costs a lot of money. Well, what doesn't? And what's more important than the investment into relationships with these younger people and finding out about them, addressing the matters most important to them? How can we make them better? We always talk about, well, they need to do it for the team. What about our team doing it for them as adults, us as the adults? And, there's a lot of back and forth about, well, you get hurt on this or turf, or you can't play on this, or grass is better and all. There's nothing, and all that's debatable, and I'm fine with that. But nothing is more true than a deep, meaningful conversation when you find out that maybe not everything is okay that appears to be okay with that kid or their family.
It's a matter of being able to reallocate your resources, and where am I making a bigger impact in getting this field ready to play, or in this kid's life, and what's going on?
That's what's most important. Yeah. And I think things that have been done traditionally, now that we're more, even though we're more connected, so to speak, with these, I think we're more disconnected from each other. And where communities used to know about families and friends, when the churches would take care of a lot of things, now the government has relied on, or was. I think a lot of that's going to change, maybe for the I don't know, but what we have to do is start getting back to knowing who we're dealing with instead of just throwing money at a perceived problem.
Right.
And I would encourage anyone that is on the fence about why turf fields need to happen versus not, I would just encourage them to listen to the story. And there's many more like this all over Western North Carolina, because a lot of turf fields have been put down at high schools, all across, especially in the mountains, and how meaningful and important it is to not have to cancel practice, where what that kid may look forward to is the only thing they have to look forward to, because we really don't know what goes on at home.
That's right. Nope.
And when I hear about, well, it's not in the budget, or we're not looking at this right now, we have other things. No. The other things are already there, and there are kids.
Yep.
And so just a word of encouragement, especially in our county. We have elected officials. They do a great job. We have, people that are in, hired to do jobs. They work very hard. But just off my experience alone, just that one was worth the $700 and probably $50,000 at that time that turf field was put on at Irwin.
Yeah.
Not to mention that for the next 3 or 4 years they had a drought in Asheville, and it probably saved them, I think, a total of like $10 million budget-wise, not to have to mow, water, fertilize all of those fields. Yep. And don't forget about practice fields. It allows opportunities, whether good or bad. Now our young people can stay and they can participate and compete, which aids in their growth and development, not canceling practice, going home laying on the couch.
Yep. All right, guys. I'll do better next time, I promise. I still got work in progress. Have a good day.